Welcome to your instructional video on how to do a great DOT exam. The purpose of this video is to provide an introduction to the providers who may have little or no experience doing the DOT medical exam. Primarily, this is the new provider, the off-shift providers who work on the weekends or evenings, or the fill-in providers who work on an as-needed basis. Our hope is that by reviewing this material, we will improve the quality and consistency of the DOT medical exams among different providers and different centers. One of the best ways to improve our service in this regard is simply by decreasing the number of exams returned by company auditors due to simple errors. You will see some examples of these errors in a moment and some suggestions on how to avoid them. In addition to avoiding errors, when you perform a complete, thorough, and accurate exam and come to an appropriate conclusion, this helps us to remain a leader in providing the highest quality DOT medical exams. Also, by learning this material well, you are learning to audit DOT exams, starting with auditing your own prior to checkout. And although we will go over some basics that will allow you to complete the majority of exams on drivers you typically see, it is important to note that this video is not intended to be a substitute for attending the DOT Medical Examiner course. So, what should you expect from this training video? Well, essentially, this video presentation is a narrated slideshow. We will be going over the DOT forms in detail, as well as additional paperwork you may need to qualify the driver. There will also be some mock examples to review. I have also included a short video. And finally, there is an appendix section to address some of the more common medical conditions that affect qualification and certification length. But I want to be clear that this presentation represents my personal and professional opinions on how to handle the DOT medical exam based on experiences I have had over the last 6 years working in the field of occupational medicine. I have also completed the DOT Medical Examiner course offered by Concentra. If other approaches have worked well for you in the past, you are not required to change them, but I suggest you discuss them with your medical director. Also note that with continued experiences of my own, my opinions may change over time, leading to revisions of this training video.
Here you go, Doctor.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
You've just been handed a DOT exam and you really don't want to make any mistakes. What do? Although the DOT forms may differ in appearance, their content is always the same. Here's an example of some of the forms you may see. There is page 1 with the driver's identifying information, health history, and the beginning of the physical exam. And there is page 2 with more of the physical exam, the medical examiner's decision making, and finally a copy of the medical examiner certificate. These two pieces of paper together are often referred to as the long form. And finally, there is the much sought after medical examiner certificate, which the driver carries in his wallet. So let's take a closer look at page 1. The area shaded in green is filled in primarily by the driver. It contains the driver's identifying information in section 1, as well as the driver's health history in section 2. There is also an important area for the driver to explain any yes checkboxes in the health history. Finally, there is an area for the driver's signature and date. The area now shaded in red is primarily filled in by you, the examiner, and includes an important area for the examiner's comments on the health history. Also shaded in red is a box that you may need to check if the driver is required to wear corrective lenses. Finally, there is the area where you enter the results of the whisper hearing test you performed. The areas now in blue are usually filled out by the medical assistant. These areas include a section for visual acuity, field of vision, blood pressure, and pulse. Enough about vision. Now let's talk a little bit about hearing. You must enter a hearing result on every physical exam that you do. One of the most common mistakes that I find is omitting this important result. Having nothing written in this area is one of the most common reasons for the exam being returned to your medical director. Just to be clear, the minimal distance for a forced whisper to pass is 5 feet. Therefore, hearing a whisper at 5 feet in both ears or either ear is acceptable. Certainly 10 feet is even better, and 10 feet is normally the number that I enter because the exam rooms that I use are roughly 10 feet long, and when I'm on one side and the driver's on the other, he would pass 10 and 10. Even if the driver passed 5 feet in one ear and could not hear in the left ear, that is still acceptable by DOT standards. But you must enter something in this box.
Okay, now we're going to check your hearing. I'm going to have you stand up and face the wall with your nose about 2 or 3 inches from the wall. I'm going to whisper some numbers, repeat after me. You put your right hand over your right ear.
4,
2.
2,
Okay, put your left hand over your left ear.
5,
6.
6.
Thank you.
The next section has to do with blood pressure. This is the second most common omission that I find on returned DOT exams. I believe this is a problem because the medical examiner expects that the medical assistant is going to write in the appropriate blood pressure. However, in some cases, the driver's pressure is initially elevated and the medical assistant is giving the driver some time to relax so that when you, the medical examiner, comes in, you can take the appropriate blood pressure and write it in. But you must enter something in this box. If it is left blank, the exam is certainly going to be returned. Even if you put the driver on hold, you must enter a blood pressure in this box. This explains to the carrier why the driver is on hold. Most questions concerning elevated blood pressure in drivers can be handled by this chart located in the blood pressure section of the physical. It is not the scope of this portion of the video to go into further detail, although some more information is included in the appendix of this video. I just want to point out a couple of things. When a driver has stage 1 blood pressure and applies for a recertification, he gets a card for 3 months, just once. If he returns again, his blood pressure must be below 140/90 or he does not get a card. In the same fashion, when a driver reports for his initial physical and is in stage 2 blood pressure, he gets a 3-month card only once and must return with blood pressure below 140/90. The urine result area may seem pretty easy, and it usually is. Be sure that all urine results other than normal or negative are explained. Here is an example of normal urine dipstick results. Occasionally, however, we run into drivers who have proteinuria or hematuria, but these drivers can be cleared by simply clarifying that the driver is advised to contact his private physician to evaluate proteinuria or hematuria. If he is otherwise healthy, he is probably okay to drive. Elevated sugar is a different story. Diabetes is taken very seriously by the DOT, and the DOT guidelines recommend that a positive urine sugar must be resolved with a glucose finger stick. The results should be entered into this area. To clarify exactly how to handle the glucose finger stick result, please see the appendix section.